did we endorse in the election cycle? We endorsed 96 candidates. And here's the second question we get. Well, how many Republicans did you support? How many Democrats did you support? So we supported 67 Democrats and 29 Republicans. We are the most bipartisan union in Washington State. That number of 70% was 3% above what we normally have. Usually it's like 2/3, 1/3, 66, 67% Democrats and 33 Republicans. So we skewed a little bit on the endorsements, but look what happened, though, when we actually talk about how much money we gave to candidates. So how many of you contribute to COPE? Anybody? Anybody here? Ray, thank you so much, because we put your money to good use. And the good use is we gave 68% to Democrats and 32% for Republicans. Okay? That's as bipartisan as they get. A lot of unions say they are bipartisan, but their actions are quite different. PSE's actions match our words. So now here's the fun part. This is what I love. It's lobbying. I love advocating for classified employees, but lobbying legislators is the same thing that you do at the bargaining table. So we have a political team led by our legislative council. Are there any legislative council members in the audience here? If so, please stand up and be recognized. Any council members? Thank you. Great job this year. Led by Rich Dustin in the back here by table 69. Then we have our board of directors who participates in our political team. We have Frank J. Warnke interns, and I'm going to be talking about them a little bit later. Then we have members who contacted legislators during the last legislative session. Are there any members here who actually did that in the last legislative session? If so, raise your hand. Thank you for doing that. It was very successful, very successful. And we have two staff besides me, and it's Aaron Flieger. Aaron is not here today. He's our contract lobbyist, and then Jennifer McMaster. Jennifer, where are you? There she is. Amazing job. So that's our team, is that group of people. So as I said, we had, in this upcoming session, the 2019 session, we had historic opportunities. We had been pushing issues, and they were right at the precipice, but it's the steepest part. And the steepest part was tied to, guess what? Money. It's all about money, honey. So legislators will approve issues, but when you get to funding, that's where the problems start. So our priorities this session was funding our higher ed contracts and the insurance agreement. And then it was to fund SEB and the SEB coalition agreement. And then paraeducators getting training that's fully funded by the state. And then lastly, a pro-union response to the Janus decision. So two of the rocks that we were pushing up the hill had the steepest part. I said it was paraeducators and SEB. And it was strictly because it's about the money. Could we get the legislature? They said they approved nice words, but could we actually get them to fund those words was the issue in the session. And I have to tell you, the number of school district officials, superintendents who said, there's no way that the legislature will fund these issues because it costs too much. So they sort of blew us off and acted like it wasn't going to happen. But we fought and fought and fought. And I'm going to talk about what we actually achieved. But let me talk about member involvement in the session. We have a legislative conference every January. And it was on 20th and 21st of January. We set up a scholarship program because, again, George set a goal. He just all of a sudden came to us and said, you know what? I want you to have 300 people at the legislative conference. And it's like, well, it didn't matter the fact that we've never had 300, and I've only been around for 37 years, but George came up with a number, and so we had to set up a scholarship program to help members attend by defraying by paying for some of their costs. Well, it worked because we had record attendance. We had 313 members attend. Are there any members who attended in the audience, who attended legislative conference? Tremendous. Thank you so much. And here's the best part. In addition to that, 162 were first-timers. Now, I'll have to tell you, there were previous legislative conferences where all we had was 162 people. But we had 162 first-timers. And quite frankly, first-timers, we have a goal, and that's to infect you with the political bug. And I have heard back from people that they have been infected. No, it's not 162, but let's say, for instance, we got 5 or 10 more people infected by the political bug. That's going to be really beneficial. So let me talk about our internship. Most people aren't aware of our internship, but let me describe. Everybody says, so what does Frank J. Warnke have to do with this? Well, Frank J. Warnke was PSE's founding executive director. He also was a senator, and he believed in advocacy, obviously. So we set up an internship program where we released employees for 1 week to come down to Olympia during the legislative session and work with me. And so they get to experience the political process in the nitty-gritty, and they actually get started, and I'm going to talk about one of the interns in a second. But Heather Bertomeu, are you here? Heather? Stand up. Heather, there she is. Heather Christensen. I know Heather Christensen is here from Western. Jose Morales Dominguez. I don't think Jose is here. I haven't seen him. Now, I want to talk about Jessica Rose Howard. So Jessica Rose Howard is a child nutrition employee, and so she gets to Olympia on Monday, and she says, you know, I really am interested in this issue. By Tuesday morning, she was testifying on that issue in Olympia, and her testimony was so good, it made the clips of the highlights. Now, I'll tell you, yeah, I don't know, it is not a normal experience for any of you to testify in front of committees, right? So, I mean, you would think she'd be nervous, she'd be afraid, but no, she just stuck right in because it was the right thing to do. So thanks, Jessica. Tammy Uman Lanfear, are you here, Tammy? I know you are. Where is she? There she is. Great job. Cheryl Perozic, I know Cheryl is here. Where are you? Thank you, Cheryl. Rebecca Posey, are you here? Rebecca? Nope. And I know Jennifer's here. Jennifer Saladas. Where are you? Oh, there she is. Great. Yeah. So, I should mention that Jennifer actually was so interested in SEB. Jennifer, did you end up testifying at the SEB meeting? Oh, okay. I guess you didn't. So, so those are our interns. And by the way, it's an annual thing. So if any of you are intrigued by this, talk to any of the interns about their experiences. Here's the response from most interns after they finish their week. Number one, they don't want to leave because they've learned so much and they're so engaged in the issues. The second thing is, can I do it again? So it is a valuable experience. It's something PSE does for members that no other union, no other organization in Olympia does. Nobody does that. So let me just talk real briefly. The other thing I do is I write blog entries to keep members aware of what's going on in Olympia. I write thousands and thousands of words. And I have no idea if anybody's reading them, but I religiously put them up there. How many of you read the blog? Anybody? Good. Thank you. Thank you. Lets me know. But I keep members informed, and this is, if you wanted to, this is the website. And you can actually read my blogs from a couple years ago, too. So how did we do? Oh, by the way, I'll mention this again. I should have mentioned it earlier. This presentation will be online, too. So you'll be able to access it and all the information within it. So I'll just save you a little bit of writing. So how did we do? Well, the education, the higher ed agreements were funded. The pro-union legislation turned out better than we expected. It was a fight, but it worked out. And then there were historic successes. We did actually achieve it. We did push those 2 rocks up the hill. And they're at the top. But then something surprising happened, and an issue we'd been fighting on forever in Washington, D.C. Now, how many of you think that Washington, D.C. politics actually works? That's why the rock that we were suddenly presented with, it was like, okay, maybe we're going to make this happen this year. So here's a rock. Now, by the way, that's a woman about 55 years old, which is about the average age of our members. But, you know, she's pushed the rock to the top of the hill, and that reflects our members. Okay, so we did it. So what do we do for paraeducators? Well, I have to tell you, one of our problems was there's nothing in the nation that recognizes paraeducators' professional development. Nothing. How do I know that? Well, I was told that by national organizations. We are so far ahead of everybody else that they're looking at us. So basically, because there's nothing out there, we had to develop it. It had to include paraeducator training, but also teaching principals and teachers how to work with paraeducators in the classroom. It also should include a paraeducator career ladder, advanced paraeducator standards, and also specialized certificates for paraeducators who work in special ed and ELL. So we had to build the infrastructure. We started in 2014. Laura Rogers, are you here? I know you are. There she is with her broken foot or whatever it is. Laura has been sitting on the paraeducator board for over 2 years with Lauren Sickles, Evergreen paraeducator. And they developed the training in the comprehensive development program. Thank you, Laura, for your work. The training had to cover both paraeducators, teachers, and principals. So this was the issue. Okay, legislature, we've built everything. Now you have to fund it. And that was the difficulty. Are they going to fund it? So make a long story short, as you probably know, we did get 2 7-hour days funded by the legislature. There's an issue about how many years this is going to last, but commitments from legislators is the 2 days go on for several years. So how much does it cost? It costs $12 million. $12 million for the first ever training program for paraeducators in the nation. And that covers all 25,500 paraeducators. It's not just basic education, it's every one of you. So the interesting thing is we're getting state recognition and national recognition for our efforts. I don't know if you read it, but the Seattle Times last Sunday, above the fold on page A1, had a huge piece about paraeducators and the importance of paraeducators and training paraeducators. Anybody read that? Okay, thank you, Jennifer. So what it said is Washington is ahead of the curve, and Representative Steve Berquist, who is our champion on this issue, said, this is significant recognition for our awesome paraeducators to be above the fold on page A1 of the Seattle Times on Sunday, the highest readership of all publications in Washington State. So there was a little problem in the article. It had to do with wages. Does anybody who's read that notice that? I've heard, so I'm working with the reporter, and he is going to be sending out, or there's going to be another article today or tomorrow in the Seattle Times correcting some of the misinformation. And it wasn't like he was lying. He was just sharing information that OSPI had provided him, which was wrong. Because what they did is they said, well, if you're a full-time 2,080 paraeducator, you get $42,000 a year. Well, yes. Well, the reporter said, you know, Doug, I'm getting beat up all over the state over my, but that's what OSPI had told him. But no paraeducator works 42,080. So anyway, he's got a revised number, and it's actually $21,000. The average hourly wage rate is $19.99. I know that because I just provided it to him yesterday. Okay? Yeah. It was a fun experience. So Thanks to George Dawkins. This is an association that George is a part of, the American Society of Association Executives. Lauren Getson and Travis. Lauren, Lauren, you're over here, and Travis right there put together a what is it called, a survey or a response. They applied for this recognition, for this award, and we won it. And we won it because this is what they say in the description of the award. Extraordinary contributions associations make to society by enriching lives, creating a competitive workforce, preparing society for the future, driving innovation, and making a better world. That's why we got the order. How's that? Thank you, Travis and Lauren, for your hard work on that. So here's another rock that we pushed to the top. Affordable insurance. So that's a big issue. And it involves SEB. And as you know, and John Bowden is back in the room. I hope everybody has visited his table about SEB. If not, you should spend some time while they're here because SEB is happening. But basically, we had to develop it. There was nothing that existed before, so we had to start. So we started somewhere, and so we started out with a board. Patty Estes is not here, but she's from Eatonville, and she represents PSE on the board. They've had 22 meetings since October, developing SEB, making decisions about what SEB should look like. The last meeting was 2 days ago. Is it the third? Yeah, 2 days ago. And I'm happy to say, I love fighting. So I'm happy to say that Kaiser Permanente, who many of you have Kaiser insurance, unfortunately, they were trying to deny a significant premium reduction for employees who wanted Primera insurance. And the cost of that would have been $35 million. Basically, what happened is Primera said, we want to reduce our rates more than we thought. And so we're going to reduce our rates by about 50%. And Kaiser said, you can't do that. And we said, yeah, you can. And you should save the employees $35 million that shouldn't go to Primera, that they don't need it. So actually, we won. It was a great fight. And if any of you are interested, it's all on TVW. And most of you don't know what TVW is, but it's a public access television station, usually channel 23 on your cable, but you can watch the debate. I had fun. So we have a coalition, and the coalition is called the SEB Insurance Coalition. We had to negotiate with the governor's staff the governor's office over SEB and implementation of SEB as it relates to money. So it involved the WA, PSE, the Teamsters, Operating Engineers, SEIU 925, AFT, and the Principals Association. All of us met to negotiate with the governor's office. Our principles were to end the premium bias against spouses and dependents inherent in the K-12 system, end funding bias against part-time classified employees, and actually provide K-12 the same funding that they provide state and higher education employees. So let's talk about spouses and dependents. We were looking as a coalition for a more balanced approach to insurance funding, premium funding, that would require singles pay a monthly premium, that it would reduce premium costs for dependents and spouses, and it would result in improved health care for our members' children and spouses. But there have been other things that have come up recently as SEB rates have been published. So now I'm going to introduce Donna. Come on up. Come on, Donna. Donna Murray Hansen is from Yelm. She's a library technician, and she's just going to briefly talk about the impact. So, okay.
I think this is already on. Good. Whoa. I can't see any of you, so I'm going to go this way. Donna Hansen from Yelm. I actually did the intern with Doug a couple years ago, and this was in its making at that point. It was still something we were fighting for, and I had my week, and we got to go down into the senator's movie studio downstairs, and we actually made a commercial. It was myself, a couple of bus drivers, and a teacher that actually made the commercial for this. And then, as part of my duties, and something I volunteered to do, I got to testify in front of a committee that was thinking about doing this. It was the healthcare committee. Never done anything like that before. How many of you guys, for me at least, education is in my family. It's generational. My mother was a librarian, just like me. My daughter is a teacher. My daughter-in-law is actually part of my chapter. She's one of our groundskeepers. How many of you guys have a family member in your school? It's also our largest employer in our town, so there's a lot of people that work for it. How many of you guys have a direct relative in the educational field? Wow, a lot of you guys. This is a huge impact for me, because one of the things that I testified on was the fact that I have a lovely daughter who's a second grade teacher. She has 3 children now. I have a brand new grandbaby from 3 weeks ago. And thank you. We cohabitate. We bought a house together along with her significant other, her boyfriend from the last 7 years. I testified on this, and it was geared toward the audience. The audience was my generation. Pretty much a lot of our legislators have done their career, and now they're helping out their communities. I testified that my daughter is not married to the father of her children, because if they got married, he could no longer get insurance on the exchange for $200 a month. He would have to go on her plan because it's offered, and thus he couldn't get the exchange. And to add him to her plan would have been over $800 out of their paycheck. So as I'm looking at Randy Becker, who's in her twilight years as well, I'm like, my daughter is not married because of insurance. They're living in sin over $800 a month. And I was sharing with Doug, because he sent me the rates in the mail, because I'm on Ledge Council. I was thrilled, and I almost want to cry. I was so excited when I saw the rates, because I'm going to pay $49 a month for my insurance now. I've cheated the system. I've paid nothing for the last 10 years. I was worried it was going to be a high premium. $49 is absolutely doable for me. I can do that so that my daughter can get married. And they're getting married. So for me, this is generational. Yes, I'm going to have to pay, but my future generations, they're going to pay when they first start, like prepaying for what they're going to save when they start having families and when they start getting married. So if you guys have any questions about SEB, it's one of my favorite topics. Ask anybody in Yelm.
Thanks, Donna.
Okay, thank you guys.
Appreciate it. Okay, so I'm going to pick up from there and just talk about a couple other features, and then we'll be just about done here. Here's the other thing. Take-home pay for thousands of our members are going to go up dramatically under SEB. The take-home pay. And it's the employee, and we'll talk about it. Okay, so let's talk about the bias against classified employees. If you are a half-time state and higher education employee, the state provided full funding if you worked 1,040 hours. But if you were a classified employee, you had to work 1,440 hours. And I've said for years, since 1994, that's not fair. So, and then you get prorated funding, which wasn't fair. But here's what the legislature approved. Full funding at 630 hours. I guarantee you, and I'd like you to contact other states, no other state in the nation, as a state, provides full insurance funding for employees who work 630 hours or more. No state in the nation. Now, for those who want to challenge me, go out and challenge me. Go out and find the information, but I'll tell you, you're not going to find it. No state in the nation. So the Columbia newspaper called me yesterday. They're running an article. It's going to probably come out in tomorrow's newspaper about SEB. And the article is going to be focusing on the tremendous benefit of SEB for part-time classified employees. So let's talk about the state funding bias. The state funded K-12 at $843.97, but state employees are at $976. We said that's not fair. So what did the legislature approve? $973, up to $1,056. It's a 25% increase in insurance funding. That's what the legislature funded for everybody. So affordability for insurance means more lives are going to be covered. It's estimated that an additional 9,000, that number is light. It's probably more like 12 to 15,000 classified employees are going to get district insurance again. So here's the other exciting one. 30,000 at least. In fact, it's estimated that number may be more like 40 to 50,000 dependents and spouses are going to get insurance again through the district. Those are big numbers to me. I don't know about you. But here was the big rock that had to be pushed. $1.15 billion is the cost of this. That's a big number to me. I think it is to you too. So could we do it? Yes, we did it. We got the $1.15 billion. And let me tell you that for classified employees who work between 630 and 1,440 hours, let's get the number up, it's $238 million a year that you're going to get for your insurance benefits. That's a big number to me. It affects 36,153 classified employees are going to find better insurance funding. That's a big number. What happened? That actually turns out to be 55% of all classified employees. So let me keep moving because I'm running a little bit long here. In Washington, D.C., we have a federal lobbyist, Bob Canavan, that I work with. There was a classified school employee of the year. Carol Leibelt, are you here, Carol? Yes, there she is. She's our RISE winner, a national RISE winner that was recognized by Washington, D.C. from Quincy. But we also work on federal funding. But here's the national recognition for classified employees. This is the issue. This is the last rock. We've been working on this for 12 years and getting very little reception in Washington, D.C. Basically, you know what we're trying to do? Has anybody heard about the National Teacher of the Year? In the Rose Garden, and there's a big ceremony, etc. Well, for years we've been saying we should have the same thing for classified employees. And so we have minimal success. We had a certain amount of success, but we couldn't really get much momentum going. But all of a sudden, Dina Titus, Congresswoman from Nevada, she introduced the legislation. Actually, I worked during Christmas break. On Christmas Eve, I was working with NA and AFT on this legislation. I worked all through January 1st. Anyway, it was pretty amazing. The United States House of Representatives approved it, 387 to 19. The Senate, a month later, approved it unanimously. We have one more step to go. One more step to go. President Trump signed it on April 12th. I tell you, the first award is going to be given in 2021, and I just can't wait for that Rose Garden recognition for a classified employee. So, moving along, we have more rocks to push. We will never stop. We still have to get 2 more days of training for paraeducators, so we get up to 4 days per year. We're going to be working on subcontracting protections in higher ed. We have a huge issue of overstaffed BEA positions, Basic Education Act positions, in our schools. And we have to protect employees from being physically hurt by students. So those are the rocks we'll be pushing on starting next year. I hope you'll join our political teams and you'll participate in our advocacy campaigns. Please vote. The next vote is August 6th, 3 days from now. Read the blog, share information, participate in lobbying, become an intern if you're interested. Support your bargaining teams. It's all part of this circle of life. We have tremendous assistance and we look forward to fighting for you. Kudos to our teams. You have every reason to be proud of your bargaining and political teams and what they have accomplished this last year. But you gotta tell your colleagues. George, I'm just about done.
Outrule him. You can stay up there and talk.
You have to tell your colleagues that we've been successful, whether it's at the bargaining table, where you have huge rates of returns that you've gotten your members, whether it's in Olympia.
Keep going.
We just want to take one moment here and just show Doug our true appreciation for what he's done for us this year. We just want to acknowledge Doug, what he's accomplished this year, and the hundreds and thousands of lives that he's impacted over many years. We just want to say thanks. That's all. Just thank you.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. It has been my extreme pleasure. This is not something I take lightly. I'm too passionate. I'm too passionate for you. You guys, go out of here. They won't leave, George. Get them to go. Okay, now I get to finish my celebrating. I know, I finished my first one 10 minutes early. Thank you, guys, I tell you. Okay, get this picture off. But I'll have to tell you, we've had so many tremendous successes over the years, and I've been so proud to be your quarterback. But you know what? Quarterbacks aren't worth a damn if they don't have linemen. So, you know what? It's been a team. There's no way you can do it. And George, he sits behind me and he says, Doug, go pick a fight somewhere. And I do, and he stood behind me every step of the way. Every step of the way. That's huge. Okay, I'm going to finish up my presentation. I think I'm just about done. You can pull it up. You've got to tell your colleagues. Okay, I lost my, are you guys going to pull it back up? Did I do something? Okay. You guys have to tell your colleagues. We're in a right-to-work environment. It's not the world that you used to know. And you've got to start telling your colleagues about our success. We need you to go back to work and share your pride in our success with your colleagues. And guess who you have to focus on? Let's hear it. Who? You got to get to the new employees, people. If we don't get the new employees, we go into a death spiral. You got it? So, congratulations, PSE's political teams, bargaining teams. It has been a tremendous year. We started off on such a terrible note with Janice, and we ended up so well. It's just phenomenal. Congratulations.
Thank you, Doug.